If you were to think about what it means to live the good life, you're not alone if you picture the illustrious Anita Ekberg. Born in the big city and one of 8 kids, Anita managed to capture the world's attention with her divine presence. But her private life became something of a living hell.
How did you know?
So was there ever a chance of lasting marriage with her army of lovers? And what morbid ending did Anita face all by herself? The answers will break your heart.
I sound fascinating.
I am your host, Nostalgic Nick. Today we'll cover the extreme lengths Anita went to just to keep the paparazzi away, and the painful toll that famous fountain scene took on her. If you enjoy our deep dive into that big fountain, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a memory. Now, without further ado, let's revisit this one-in-a-million superstar. How old was Anita Ekberg in La Dolce Vita? Anita's discovery involves as much globe-trotting as her later fame that transcended borders. First, she won the Miss Sweden pageant and tried her hand at the Miss Universe contest, for the first time going to America. And by that time, Anita could hardly understand any English.
You don't need a dictionary. I can translate quite well.
She ultimately lost Miss Universe, but that trip to the States was enough to get her signed to a contract with Universal Pictures. In fact, Anita amassed a whole fan club, whose powerful members included the affluent Howard Hughes, director Russ Meyer, and yes, even the Duke John Wayne. And Anita got to appear in War and Peace alongside Audrey Hepburn and Henry Fonda, and a spot in Hollywood or Bust.
I don't choose historical parts. I'd much prefer to have a modern story.
Anita was well aware of the fanfare she attracted. She'd be very outspoken about it in interviews decades later. And she made sure everyone remembered she was already a star when she was approached by Federico Fellini for La Dolce Vita. Because Anita very vocally criticized how, quote, they would like to keep up the story that Fellini made me famous, that Fellini discovered me. By the time La Dolce Vita premiered, Anita was nearing 30 and known as a sensual goddess. Cause only a goddess could have survived what she did in that famous fountain scene. When she made her way through Rome's revered Trevi Fountain, wearing nothing but a strapless black dress. Well, it was February, and those waters were very, very cold. And her time in that fountain was made even longer because her co-star was drunk on vodka and kept stumbling and messing up, so they had to do take after take after take, and woo, it's cold. And get this, the vodka was to help her co-star stay warm on top of the wetsuit he wore under his costume. When all was said and done, Anita said, quote, they had to literally lift me out of the water because I could not feel my legs. And sadly, there was quite a long time when Anita could not rewatch that final beautiful scene thanks to that trauma. Who was Anita Ekberg married to? Anita's busy professional life was rivaled by her busy romantic one. She was married just 2 times, but there is a whole string of affairs that is quite a collection.
You said no questions. Don't ask me.
There was Gianni Agnelli, head of the Fiat Auto Company. They fooled around even when he was still married. Oh, there's movie stars too, Errol Flynn and old Blue Eyes Frank Sinatra himself. Even a rumored fling with Gary Cooper. When she did tie the knot, both times were with actors. First was Anthony Steele.
After the ceremony, the eager pressmen made a quick getaway with their copy before the bride and groom became once again the center of a milling crowd.
Who was famous both for the wooden horse and for his famously rocky marriage with Anita. The two frequently fought in public, and Steele even attacked paparazzi. He was also arrested not once but twice for drunk driving. And Anita and Steele were married for 3 years in the 1950s. Jump ahead to 63, and Anita got with Rick Van Neuter from the James Bond film Thunderball. The two split their time between Spain and Switzerland, and even started a shipping business together. Did Anita Ekberg have children? Anita was constantly surrounded by rumors of affairs, of marriages started and stopped, but never any paternity scandals. Well, that's obviously because Anita never had kids.
Pericoloso, ma molto bello.
Grazie, signore.
As to why, well, she was a very contradictory lady and she gave different answers over time. In a 2006 interview, this powerhouse who did accomplish so much mourned that she never had kids of her own. But jump a half a year later, and Anita said just the exact opposite. In response to all this, coupled with her Scandinavian background, well, the gossip magazines gave Anita the nickname The Iceberg. Not very cool. What happened to actress Anita Ekberg? Anita's influence was monumental, global, and long-lasting. And she noticed it too. After settling down around Italy, Ekberg noticed, quote, "Now everybody is blonde here. Have you seen a news presenter on television that is not blonde?" But everyone choosing blonde did not stop Anita from being a very recognizable face, one that the paparazzi just loved to swarm. Speaking of, did you know Anita is part of the word paparazzi coming into existence? It's from the character paparazzo, a photographer from the Dolce Vita. Time magazine made the term mainstream in the same breath, calling them, quote, "a ravenous wolf pack," which definitely describes what Anita faced, as she was one of the most celebrated pinups, second only to Marilyn Monroe.
If she was still alive, she would be older than me, and I would like to know what she would look like today.
It got so bad, Anita threatened the wolf pack with a bow and arrow. Heck, that's one way to make a point. It was the quintessential life of a star, the brightest in the sky, but her life did not stay twinkling forever. It crashed hard. Anita knew people liked her because of her looks, even saying, quote, "I have a mirror. I would be a hypocrite if I said I didn't know I am beautiful." So when aging ran its natural course, work dried up. Anita stood by her morals and wouldn't beg or do favors for jobs. She knew, quote, "I shouldn't have to sleep with producers to get parts." She did land a few final salacious roles, but divorced and without a lot of work or worship, she led a much quieter life until it was violently disturbed. In 1977, robbers broke into her home and stole all sorts of treasures, from jewelry to fur coats, silver, and gems, all prizes she won from a faded career. Then in 2011, she suffered another serious robbery, and when the dust settled, Anita was left penniless. Newspapers at the time even used the word destitute. She sought financial help from the Fellini Foundation, unfortunately just when the company was also having money problems and couldn't do it. One of these burglaries happened when Anita was at the hospital with a long illness, and while she was away, what little she had was destroyed in a fire. Jeez. In place of dazzling sets and palatial mansions, Anita ended up in a lonely, rundown villa in Rome. Instead of a husband and kids, she had 2 Great Danes. Unfortunately, one of those Danes knocked her right on her feet and Anita broke her hip. Her first hip operation did not go well, and that imbalance ended up ruining her other hip. And for a time, she was confined to a wheelchair and later needed a cane to move around. What was the cause of death of Anita Ekberg? Quiet, loneliness, and poverty marked the final years of Anita's remarkable life. After being wheelchair-bound for years from that injured hip, Ekberg fell ill with chronic illnesses. Then, on January 11, 2015, Anita Ekberg died of complications from all these illnesses. She was 83 years old and hadn't had any family members with her when she passed. And because of this, much of her remaining time was spent in an Italian nursing home. Properly in her honor, Rome's Trevi Fountain was shut off and covered in black, a beautiful reference to her famous watery scene and the dress she wore through it all. It's a symbol of Anita's own stubborn optimism and zeal for life. When she reflected on her life's twists and turns, she said, quote, "I have no regrets. I have loved, cried, been mad with happiness. I have won and I have lost." Anita Ekberg lit up the skies like a meteor, dazzling and full of big dreams and wishes. But at the end, this international treasure flickered out into a night full of pain, loss, and loneliness. Despite all that, Anita spent her final years saying and believing, quote, "It's all about living life to the full. age is a state of mind. Who is growing old? I am certainly not. It's not the end we would have wished for that bombshell who captured our hearts, but she was always determined to go out with her head held very, very high. Alright, that's enough of me, now we want to hear from you. Did any of you have any of her sizzling pinups? Have you seen La Dolce Vita? Is that Fellini's best film? And is there another role of Anita's that I forgot to mention? Get in the comments and tell me all things Anita Ekberg. Before you head out of here, hit the thumbs up icon if you enjoyed our video. Subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And hey, tell us who we should cover next. And from all of us here at Do You Remember, I want to thank you for watching.